Hello, and welcome to Small and Medium Enterprise Perspectives, a show where we seek to support, inform, celebrate the owners, executives, employees, and customers of small and medium-sized enterprises. We do this by interviewing executives for their perspectives on the issues of the day. And of course, the issue of the day today is COVID-19. I'm Drew Harris, Professor of Management at Central Connecticut State University. I'm joined with my co-host, Associate Dean Kostov Mishra, and we're really fortunate today to have our friend Marc Nemeth from Journal Industries. Marc, thank you for coming, and let me just start by having you share what is Journal Laboratories, what do you do, and a little background.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. This is exciting to interact with you and the audience. Journal Laboratories is a manufacturer of seals for aerospace. We're going to be 55 years old this September, and we're vertically integrated. So I try to tell people it's conceptually like a bakery, where we get raw ingredients in, we mix it into compounds, and then we mold the compounds, or analogous to baking the compounds. We have over 120 employees. We've had a lot of growth over the last 3 or 4 years. This year is obviously going to be a challenging year, and we supply both to the airframe and the engine side of the aerospace business.
Well, that's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
As that, I assume that, well, I know because we've had a conversation that you're considered a essential workforce, or critical to the environment. How did you first hear about COVID-19 and come to the realization that you were an essential business?
Well, how do we first hear about COVID-19? A little bit more about Journal Laboratories is we travel internationally, and I wasn't, but we had our vice president and a member of our staff going to the Singapore Air Show, and we were going to travel to China after the air show, and that was in early this year. And the virus became known in Wuhan, and then a little before the trip, the U.S. government put a travel advisory highly recommending not to go to China. So I guess we started thinking it was serious at that point. And there was some concern with people with our folks in Singapore coming back because there was starting to be initial concern. Shortly thereafter, I got a call from one of our a major company that we're a supplier to, reminding us that we were on some critical programs for the Department of Defense, or they're on critical programs for the Department of Defense, and we support them. And they said, "Oh, by the way, you will stay open and you will continue to support us." And then subsequent to that, the governor, I guess, made manufacturers essential businesses. So we knew what we had to do and to stay open. And but it's really what Journal does is we service our customers. That's the only thing we really try to do right.
Great. Well, thanks.
Thank you. So you know that the pandemic has stimulated many changes in government action, logistics, and supply chain, and of course your customer behavior as well. What is the current state of your business, and how have you adapted to this new reality? Can you give us some kind of a thought onto it?
Regarding the supply chain, or just the general business right now?
Just a general business right now, and more specifically how you're dealing with the customer right after we started.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We, as I mentioned earlier, we had a tremendous amount of growth over the last 3 or 4 years, and we're continuing to work to satisfy our customers' needs, and we're partnering with some very, very large companies that are looking to support their legacy aircraft that are in the marketplace. So we're required to be investing in facilities, equipment, people. So we're in a situation now where Some of our major customers have said they're going to be as much as a 40% reduction in deliveries from what was considered earlier in this year. So we're in a situation where we're trying to. It's easy to support the customer for a 40% reduction. However, we're also in the process of tooling up to go after business in the future. So the problem we have is this is a new environment for everybody, and we don't know what tomorrow brings. So we are trying to balance. We're trying to balance our assets and our resources to continue to do both long term. So we were fortunate to secure funding through the first PPP. We were probably I probably gauged it right that it was going to be oversubscribed, and we were working on that for 2 weeks before the opening date, and we were able to get in the first round and have some resources. So this is a constant problem right now: is balancing our resources, continuing to keep our people employed because we need the staffing for the long term, and meeting the short term goals. As I said, no one knows what tomorrow brings, so it is something that takes constant attention.
Thank you very much.
Mark, you mentioned your employees. I've seen your facilities. It's they're intimate spaces, some of them, where people have to work together. And I understand that you have had at least one employee who was tested positive. So what are you doing to make it safe for your employees and still meet your production demands and take care of everybody?
Already, yeah, we've had a number of people, more than one, that have tested positive. Fortunately, to my knowledge, there have been no hospitalization. These are almost on the verge of asymptomatic, but there was some indication whether it was fever or not, and people got tested. Obviously, we follow the state and the federal CDC guidelines and do what is smart. So when someone was tested positive, they had to be quarantined, and so they obviously stayed home. We did a number of things. A lot of it is we want our people to be comfortable and happy, and know that we take it serious. So we had more than one person have the positive results. We looked at our schedule and we decided to do a couple things. One, we fundamentally shut down for a week. We started getting a professional service to come in and disinfect, and this has been ongoing on a weekly basis. What we've done is we basically went to half time. We split the crew in half, and typically we work 4 10-hour days on the factory floor. So we split the crew in half, and we had half of them come in Monday and Tuesday, the other half come in Wednesday and Thursday. And we were able to come close to maintaining our deliveries to the lower level that the customers wanted. So we were down for about a week, and about 3 weeks we've been at let's say a 50% capacity. We're going to be ramping back up to somewhat full. We've tried to redesign work so people are a little further away from each other, and obviously the face masks and what have you we're using. People come into the shop, their temperature is taken, face masks around, and following all the guidelines. So
Fantastic.
we have a number of older people. We have required them to stay home and work the best they can. And most of our office, I'd say probably 70-80% of it, the action and the time is spent at home. But as we start to cycle back up to something that approaches normal, or the new abnormal, as you would say, we are, we're taking baby steps and understanding that this is not going away right away. It's going to be a long-term process.
Great, thanks.
So have you I'm just curious to know that have you taken any advantage of all this government assistance program, like
I'm having a hard time hearing.
government assistance programs, for example, small business debt relief program or paycheck protection program, any such of programs? There are multiple of them.
Yes, we were fortunate enough to get in the Paycheck Protection Program. We've actually have the money in the account. So what we're doing, quite frankly, is since the virus started, we've been extremely flexible with our people as far as whether they want to stay home or come to work. And we've been paying them. And with the program, we will certainly have the resources to pay them full for the next 2 months. And we're also in the spirit of the government. If you, I'm sure you've all been exposed to the economics, the Keynesian and all. Is the government appears to be acting in a way that they want money to get to the people who need it, so they can start to spend it. We're actually we have a capital expense needs over the next year and a half, actually next 2-3 years, and we're going to the suppliers and asking them if there's an incentive available if we give them an order sooner than later. We are setting up a secondary manufacturing annex, and we're continuing to do that. So we're balancing just the regular production requirements with building the footprint of the business to anticipate the future. It requires a constant management because the bottom can fall out at a moment's notice.
So I'm just curious to know another thing. How do you maintain boundaries between family and work life? During this after this pandemic, that we are spending a lot of time at our home, and so there is no virtual any boundaries anymore. So how do you handling family life and work?
How do we manage to produce the product and keep the customer satisfied?
Yeah, pretty much.
Our best and biggest and best customer has indicated that they're going to have a reduction of about 40% in their commercial business. We're seeing that. Our business operates. It's a very variable demand, which requires inventory to meet the daily changes that the customers require. So we don't look at inventory as a cost. We look at it as a strategic advantage, strategic differentiator. So we were prior to the virus, we were building up our inventory of finished goods to be able to balance. So when we cut our time in half for a period of time, we were drawing upon our inventory. But then there were some programs that they actually want more shipments from, so we just had to allocate the resources. One of the reasons why we're coming back to let's say close to full time, if you will, is because we see that there is a lag and we're running out of inventory, and we have to be a little more focused on the demand. So it's a pull and a pull and a push.
Thank you.
So, Mark, you got an early warning because you were out prospecting in Asia, and we're told maybe don't go to China. And you're talking about building a footprint in a future. When you gaze into your crystal ball, tea leaves, or what have you, what are you seeing that you're wanting to build for, like in the general economy and in your industry, and what do you think is going to happen? I mean, what are the contingencies you're looking at now?
Well, we supply a number of segments of the industry. We started in Connecticut 55 years ago, and by nature of being in Connecticut, most aerospace manufacturers supply to the jet engine side. About 10, 12 years ago, I'm looking around and saying, well, why aren't we supplying to the airframe side? And well, there's a couple of reasons. One, the airframe side was mostly located in the Midwest or the West Coast. but that you needed bigger equipment, and you needed CATIA, which is a CAD program. And it was very difficult times at that period, and we really couldn't afford it, but we did buy the CATIA, and we slowly started to make inroads in the airframe business. So I mentioned that we've had the last 3 or 4 years have been very, very good, a lot of growth. And most of that growth came from our core original business of supplying people that service the engine side. We've been making great inroads into the airframe side. Now, Boeing is a major company, and they have a number of divisions. One of their divisions is commercial, obviously, and as everybody knows, they're having some difficulty there, not only with the MAX, but with the Corona and the fall off the airframe of the market. Prior to the virus, everybody was predicting 5-6% cumulative growth over the next 20 years for the aerospace business. Well, that has gone out the door right now, and it's going to be probably 2 or 3, 4 years before we get back to where we were in 2019. What a segment of the industry that has been ignored is the original equipment manufacturers. Let's say Pratt & Whitney in the engines and Boeing in the airframe have typically sold their products, and they let someone else take care of the MRO, maintenance, repair, and overhaul. Well, as the market gets saturated, these major companies look for ways that they can get more business. And what they've decided is that they're perfectly situated to be a bigger player in the maintenance, repair, and overhaul, but they got to change their business model. So what happened is we've been knocking on Boeing's door for a long time. And we set up the factory and without any hope for it, but we showed them that we have the capability to do it, and that more importantly, the desire to work with them. So we're on the fast track to partnering with their BGS division, Boeing Global Services, which initially was a $2 billion organization. We have hopes that it's someday going to be a $50 billion organization, and they've made some acquisitions of logistics companies. So there's something over 15 and approaching $20 billion. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to support them for the seals of that as they go forward and in a sense partnering with them. We like to think it's partnering. I'm not sure they think that. So that is why we're setting up our second manufacturing annex. And we rented the space, we bought some equipment, and there was no activity whatsoever for 5 years. But we were ready when they were ready. So we're finishing that off, and we've been approached by another major airframer located in the country, along with the government, and we expect that the legacy support is going to ultimately yield thousands of part numbers that they require just a handful every year, and we are actually purchasing a building and looking to set that building up for the legacy support aspect of the business. So I see 3 major areas of the industry as far as our vision is that the engine manufacturing, we're tied in with Pratt. They look like they're doing very well in the military side. The commercial side is taking a hit. The airframe side, we're following up and doing some commercial side of it, but most of it's going to be in the legacy. And this is we see the future is the next 2 or 3 years are going to be very challenging, and challenging more from the point of view of it'd be very easy to downsize and right-size your company for the current business that you have, but we're trying to walk the tightrope of not downsizing, but being able to sustain our efforts to catch the wave of new business that's coming. And am I still here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
catch the wave that's coming. So we are we're a private company, and this third my daughter, two daughters are working for me, and one is going to be kicking me down the stairs one of these days and taking over. So we look at everything long term, and I think this is a tremendous opportunity, and we're not going to drop the ball on it. So it's we have a tolerance. We have a number of quarters where we lose money, but as long as the long term goal is there, we're going to be pursuing it. So that's really the challenge that we have. It's not to survive per se, because a lot of people can cut back, but it's being able to maintain your current customers. We ship. We're a high performer, 99 plus on both quality and delivery across our customer base. But it's also building the footprint for the new business that's coming. So it's what we did. I'm sort of try to stay ahead of the curve. Is when we first had the inkling of the Corona situation, is we went to our banks and our lenders and looked to make sure our relationship was good, and actually expanded the lines of credit that we had, so that if we had 18 months of very difficult times, we could draw on those lines and take us across.
Well, Mark, it sounds like you're doing one of the things that is really inspiring, I think, to people who might be listening, and that, if I can just quickly rephrase it, you've adapted, you've had a short-term decrease in demand, which you've met by managing to make your employees safer and developing new protocols. And now you're trying to position yourself going forward in a way that perhaps private companies have more flexibility than public companies. And I know that you've been a good citizen there in the Meriden area, and I think your approach to this is probably going to be successful long term. I'm wondering if you have any last couple of words before we wrap up here for people who might be viewing, and how they might adapt to their environment.
Well, you can talk about doing the right thing. I think the first thing you have to do is survive, and you've got to have the ability to be viable. So anything I'm going to say, it doesn't mean it has to be secondarily the second priority to the idea that you've got to be able to survive first. And it would be you can never go to a bank when you need the money. Well, you can go, but you won't be successful. I would hope that everybody has developed their relationships with the lenders, got the money they needed ahead of time, or at least the commitment ahead of time, and look to work that way. And the only thing I say, you can do everything else wrong, but if you do this one thing right, you'll be successful, and that's take care of your customers. If you don't do that, there's no reason for you to be in business. So,
Fantastic.
survival and taking care of customers is foremost.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. I think we've kind of at the time where we ask you to join us. So I don't know if Christopher, you would like to say a few words here.
No, thank you very much, Mark. This is really helpful, and I think our viewers will actually appreciate your insight and how you're tackling studying from last few months, and how you're visioning how to reopen it. And that is, I think, is extremely insightful, and definitely your keywords that meant helping the customers and keeping them, into the business, which is the prime objective for any business, is really rightly well put. So anyhow, if you, as viewers, if you have any question for Mark, please email him. His email ID is down below in the screen. If you have any question for us, me or Drew, please look at our email on the left-hand side of the screen as well. Do not hesitate to contact with us if you have any question. Thank you very much for watching us, and I hope we will get through these things, and we have a strategy to reopen the economy, and we will survive again together in this. Thank you very, very much from School of Business, CCSU.
Thank you.
Thank you.